I recently had friends over that had never seen my Squishmallow collection, and so they're out. And it's nice to have them out because I'm not feeling great mentally. 1, I'm dropping eggs. 2, life be life. And 3, World War. I've been crying. If you can see the streaks, it's avant-garde. That's how you know the emotions are emotioning. And as a way to ignore the deep dreaded doom that I feel in the pit of my stomach, I figured let's cap off the end of the Temptation Island season, shall we? Hi. It's Kendall here. New around here, welcome. Not new around here, what is up, home skillet biscuit? I've been talking about the first season of Temptation Island on Netflix for the last 2 videos. I talked about all 10 episodes, and now today I'm going to be talking about some of the things that have been happening in the post episodes because for some reason Netflix didn't do a reunion, which is honestly quite a shame, quite the waste. There was a lot going on afterwards in the immediate month and a half, 2 months. And I'm going to talk about some of them today. Some of them, because I'm sure I missed some, because again, everybody had a story, everybody was talking about stuff, but I'm going to focus on what I saw. But before we get started, there is one thing that has brought me immense joy in the last few days. I think it was during a Love is Blind recap video where I was mad that that guy, I think it's Tim, had an oil painting of himself and his dog, and I was upset because I wanted to do that. Oh, look what just came in the mail, baby. It's me and Russet. So dumb. This is an oil painting that I got commissioned of me as an admiral, because an ongoing joke is that people mishear me when I say I'm sending it over to Adroll, Adroll, and hear it as Admiral. I got a painting and I got Russet with an eye patch because she's a pirate that I caught. Oh, I should put this on t-shirts. Would you guys buy a t-shirt? It's so good. Oh, God, I love dumb shit. That actually helped me a lot. I needed that laugh. And speaking of Admiral, let's send it over to today's sponsor, Ahoy. Hello everyone, this is Admiral Kennie, and today's video is sponsored by Amra Colostrum. Colostrum is a research-backed ingredient that is shown to support gut health and support the immune system. It can help you feel more regular, less bloated, reduce indigestion by optimizing the microbiome in the gut. So it's a great supplement to help you feel better, more regular, and support your immune system. I don't use it for any of those reasons. I use it because I am horribly vain and I don't like the way my nails look right now, my natural nails. Because it's actually a great supplement for hair thickness and growth, skin, and strong nails. I've talked about this before about how my natural nails are in a dire strait, and it's because I use too many press-on nails and then I put them on top of already damaged nails that get even more damage, and so I have to take a break from them. I really need to take a break from them, and while I support their recuperation, I will be taking this supplement. So with some colostrum, tender loving care, and prayer, hopefully my nails will not look like poo-poo in a few months. Which is sad, because I just got some more press-ons. I love press-ons. Russet thought I was crying, so here she goes. Hi. She put a paw on my knee for emotional support. All you have to do is add 4 scoops minimum of the colostrum to a cold beverage, or you can be insane and pop it in your mouth flat. If you have the non-flavored one, it's really great because you can't taste anything, you can't feel anything in your mouth. I put it in my coffee this morning. And they also have flavored ones like apricot and watermelon. So if you want a flavor, you can get it. So if you would like to check out Amra Colostrum, feel free to click on the link down below. Go to amra.com/Kennie15 and use my code Kennie15 for 15% off your first order. Big thanks again to Amra Colostrum for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get on to the debauchery. So like I said, there was no official reunion, but instead, a lot of the people ended up on various podcasts, one of which particular was the Viall Files, which I have mentioned once or twice. It's where Raven told everybody about how SK cheated on her and how she found out and everything like that. So that's where I learned about the podcast, but essentially a lot of reality TV people end up on there, and they actually did the most official reunion of the show there, with all of the main couples except for Shante and Brion. They couldn't make it due to scheduling conflicts, but they would end up on other podcasts talking about their story since filming wrapped, but I'll talk about that much later. I think it's better to just start off with this Viall file reunion as the skeletal work of their where are they now type thing, because they bring up a lot of stuff that is very, very interesting. Mainly that despite a lot of people breaking up on the show, they didn't stay broken up, but they might be broken up now. It's a whole thing. It's a mess. The Viall file interview takes place about 9 months after the show wrapped. So there's been some time where people can kind of make peace with their decisions and go from there. And I figured that I'll just talk about each couple one at a time for the most part, because otherwise it'll just get very confusing because there's a lot of back and forth in the interview process. So the first couple I will talk about is, of course, Lino and Alexa, who are still together, still engaged, seem to still be happy. So good for them. If you recall, they were the only couple that stayed together at the end of the show. And they actually got engaged at the end of the show. So that's great for them. There was a little bit of hashing out of some criticism that Lino got, that essentially if he were given the opportunity to have cheated, like if he had made any connections with the girls there, then he would have, which I think he's not an ugly guy. he's not a fugly dude. And there were women there whose entire purpose was to get to know him and build a connection for TV. So I highly doubt that's the case. Also, there was the Mia girl who wanted to build a connection with him and was very hurt that he wasn't building a romantic one with her. Also, there was, in the beginning, Natalie was like licking whipped cream off his neck. I just don't think that's true, that no one was trying to give him any play, any energy. I think he just wasn't biting because that's not what he came there for. Same with Alexa. But yeah, that's about it. They talk about the same things that they talked about before, like the beginning of their relationship, the frustrations they had about moving and her choosing another guy the first month of their relationship, and how they've gotten past it, and they seem to be better for it. So good for them. Taylor and Tyler, they're kind of all over the place, okay? To be quite frank with you, I think both of them aren't great. I think Taylor is better than Tyler because he gives me a particular level of lying. They seem like two messy bitches in my opinion. All right. That's just how I feel. And there's things that she says during this that are just very off-putting to me. And then there's stuff about him that was always off-putting. So they're, again, back to not a fan of either. I'm quite frank with you. Now, I don't remember how much I brought this up in the actual recap, but one of the core issues in their relationship was him quitting his job, his corporate job, 9 to 5. He was making a lot of money in a high rise, very successful financially. He left that job and started modeling, following his dream to be in modeling or whatever. And she was very frustrated by that because she expected him to be the breadwinner. She says something along the lines of, I'm a big fan of gender roles. I'm a Southern woman. And I was like, ooh.
I'm a Southern woman at heart. I believe in gender roles.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like the man should be in their masculine and pay for things.
Okay. I expected him to be the breadwinner and to be the provider. And one of the things that attracted me to him, she says outright, is that he was making money. He was financially secure. He was financially independent. And that was attractive to me, which, I mean, at least she's honest. I don't think, I think if finances are so important to you, if it really is a big like stronghold for you that you do not want to be the breadwinner for whatever reason, then that's where you start saying like, hey, is this the relationship for me? Whereas he starts talking about his marriage. If you recall, he was married, and about 4 months after that ended, he was dating Taylor. And he goes a bit into detail about what happened with that. He would say that his wife started catching feelings essentially for a woman, and he allowed her to pursue that and discover how she felt about that. They had gotten married very young, and so there was so much about her sexuality and about herself that she didn't get a chance to explore. And so he said that he gave her the opportunity to do that, but it was supposed to be just physical. And he found himself being kind of toxic because he would give her the okay to go out to see this person, to see this woman, but he didn't expect them to have an emotional connection at some point or whatever. But eventually they went to therapy, and the therapist said that it feels like she needs time to figure things out, and that Tyler, you're out of time. And that was just where they decided to close things off. There's no ill will. She's happy right now. I'm happy right now, and everything's great. However, it would be released on TikTok by his ex-wife. That's not the entire story. As a side note, his wife looks like Sabrina Carpenter. Weird. I always said that my theory is that God has like 16 faces and he just swaps them out periodically. She would tell her side of the story, which included some rather crucial details that he elected to leave out. She would say that she never cheated on him. She thinks that's a gross thing to do. So when she started to have these feelings, she brought them to him, and he essentially said,
a girl being with another girl doesn't count anyways. So I said, bet.
Okay, happy Pride, I guess. Side note, not facetiously, I'm very obsessed with this channel. What is his name? Matt Baum. I'll put it up here. I've been watching every single one of his videos because I'm fascinated. He basically does LGBTQ history in sitcoms and movies throughout basically since old Hollywood to present. And I think it's really, really cool. So actually go watch that for Pride. Happy Pride. No, but he's like, yeah, it doesn't really count when it's two women. So she starts seeing this woman with his blessing, during which time it would come out that he had been cheating on her with a very close friend of hers that was actually staying at their house. Now, what the ex-wife did was go to him and ask if it was okay to pursue this with another person. He would give his blessing every time they would meet. So what they were doing was consensual in their relationship, but he just decided to fuck her best friend. And then later it would be shown that he had been cheating on her the entirety of their marriage. And so they would get divorced, and he would start dating Taylor afterwards because she didn't want to get involved until his marriage was finalized. With that said, the ex-wife seems really happy. She's like glowing. I think she married the woman that she was starting the relationship with, so good for her. And she's just glowing and living life, so good. They go back and forth about their on again, off again relationship. There's parts where they are together, parts where they're not together physically, but they're emotionally exclusive, whatever the fuck that means. I don't know. It just sounds like a mess, but he brought a friend of hers home at some point during this and kissed someone, which she constitutes cheating, and that was the cheating that she referred to at the beginning of the taping on the island. They would talk about the term bitch tendencies that she used for him, which again was a wild thing to say. She would say that she wasn't proud of it, but that she meant it. That kind of leaning on the like gender role thing. I wanted the Southern gender roles, I believe in gender roles. She said something along the lines of like, I expected him to, quote, be in his masculine. They just love my pretty girl voice and my pheromones.
My small breast and my little frame and my sweet little girl voice.
They just love my bass voice and they like my dick to swing to my knees.
It exudes something in people that is extremely passionate and tantalizing. And
she says she's been doing therapy for 3 years. I recommend to continue to go and maybe look a bit more critically at your thoughts around gender. Okay, they're just annoying to me in different ways, and that really solidified it, but good thing they're not together. As far as Kay, the girl that he picked at the end of the show, apparently right before the final bonfire, during the night they spent together that the cameras were off, she would admit to him that she is an OnlyFans model. I think that's something she should have told him earlier. I think saying what your job is one of those things that you could have said earlier. He's honest. He's like, I don't think it's something that I can handle personally. Which I prefer him to say that as opposed to like, oh no, I don't like bitches who show their tits and shit. He was more so like, I don't think it's something I can handle. Do you, do whatever you want to do, but I don't think it's for me. So that really did solidify that he just went off with Kay just to make Taylor mad, which doesn't surprise me. And apparently now he's dating a new third girl. It's only been 9 months. maybe consider taking a break. It's okay to want to be in a relationship, but I do find it strange. Maybe like have a minute to yourself. Ask yourself what you want. Ashley and Grant. Ashley and Grant are hard to talk about because it feels like every time I almost get a timeline for what is going on, Grant is Grant. And it's very hard to follow what the fuck he's talking about. The short and sweet of it is he still thinks he's the victim of everything. He still thinks everything was done to him. He takes no responsibility for anything he does. Still should not surprise you.
If I was just better for myself, if I changed myself, if I communicated better, that it would be okay. Only recently I've realized I'm not responsible for how someone else handles their pain, for either their inability to heal or forgive or all these things. And I was keeping it on myself.
You might be the cause.
Regardless what I
and instead uses this opportunity to basically say how Ashley's sarcastic posts on TikTok and other social media, quote, beat his spirit to a pulp.
I let her beat my spirit into a pulp.
They would try again, I guess, after leaving the show. You know, they loved each other and they obviously were on again, off again. So there must have been something that they liked in each other. So that's not that surprising. I don't know. I can never get used to it. Grant's whole like you treated me like shit. Beavis. People were saying he looked like Beavis and Butthead, and now that they've said that, I can't unsee it. Congratulations, internet, you win again. Basically, he would say that she was flaunting Danny around on social media and that she didn't even date him, really. He was just someone that she flirted with. He was 22. He was young. So she didn't really see anything meaningful there, but she just did it to flaunt in front of him. There is a clip where Ashley and Natalie were like doing maybe an Instagram live or something, and he calls in and he goes completely berserk, saying that she's so hurtful and this, that, and the other, and he's going to release text messages and this, that, and the other, and you've hurt me so bad.
Do you feel like you owe an apology for whatever you did say?
Yeah, if I called her a hoe. Yeah.
Ashley?
You quite literally texted me and said, I should have fucked Alex too.
What's his name? Nick Viall, the host. He clocks him and he's like, I get the sense that when someone says something about you, you go out of your way to prove them right. You don't prove them wrong. Like, her thing was like, wow, he's a cheating piece of shit. And instead of...
There's a theme I've noticed with you, is that when someone doubts you, your response is usually to prove them right, not prove them wrong.
Doing this and proving that you're not a cheating piece of shit, you're like, let me do it even harder and better than anyone, faster, stronger, Daft Punk on this shit. And then blame her for the reason that I did that.
You have used, whether it's Ashley doubting you or other people doubting you as an excuse to justify bad behavior.
And this may or may not have also been happening while he was dating Natalie. Because, spoiler, he was dating Natalie after the end of the show. And he cheated on her with Ashley. Shocker. So again, while he's going on about how horrible he's been treated by Ashley and how everyone does him wrong, he was cheating on yet another person. He goes on and on about how he's done and she had broke his heart, and she starts crying because it's overwhelming. He's exhausting. But fast forward, give or take a month from this podcast, and Ashley and Taylor would end up on another podcast called Chicks in the Office. And I don't know much about that podcast at all either.
I broke up with him and I was like, you know what? Maybe the show will air. I'll feel differently. Did not feel differently watching the show air, and everything that went down after, just an absolute dumpster fire. Yeah. This man, if I wasn't mortified already, right.
But there is a part that I thought was very disconcerting, where essentially she says after the Viall file, I assume this is what she's referring to, the Viall file, reunion of sorts. He cornered her, and essentially that started stalking her, allegedly.
Corners me after the podcast, would not let me leave. Would not let me leave. This man has not left the vicinity of the block of my apartment, I swear to God.
Which reminded me, the story that they had, the romantic story, quote unquote, at the beginning of the show, was that after he had cheated on her the first time, he had surprised her running after her to Greece to get her back. When you think about that, that's not cool at all. That's not romantic. I'm in a whole other country and you track me down to beg for me back. That's scary. That's actually scary behavior. You combine with that, he would corner her there. And now, according to her roommate during this podcast, he has been outside of her apartment. All jokes aside, you are frightening. According to Ashley, they don't live in the same city.
He does not live in the same city that I live in.
I think he has a tracker on her, to be honest.
I just checked in with my roommate, and she has seen him a lot. I'm never
It's
going
wild.
home. I'm moving. I'm moving to Iowa.
Yes.
He would have to come out of his way to go looking for her. And that's freaky and scary. And I'm happy that she actually said that on a public platform so that maybe this has stopped. I hope so. This was in May, like early May, so like a month and a half ago. So I hope everything's cool now. But yeah, that's essentially the main couples. There is a little tea, if you will, that Ashley and Taylor are not friends anymore. But it's kind of hard to know what exactly went down with that, because I don't think Ashley really gave much of a side of the story, and Taylor was a little vague. But honestly, I don't care. I really don't care. I didn't watch the show for besties, I guess. I'm more interested in the romantic relationships and where that happened. But apparently that might be something that fell through. Okay, so Shante and Brion, like I said, they didn't end up on the Viall Files, but they did end up on a few other podcasts, particularly Bonfire Podcast, which is the podcast that is hosted by Mark L. Wahlberg, host extraordinaire. So this aired March 26th, but at the time of filming that, they are still together. Basically, since then, they say that they've just been working on their relationship and they've started to go to therapy, which is honestly all I can ask for. If, you know, whether or not they decide to stay together or break up or whatever, at least there's a therapist involved. And sure. Brion would say something along the lines of, like, prior to the show, he didn't believe in therapy. But since the island, he has figured out that, you know, maybe he has a few things he should work on. Yeah, I mean, I sound facetious, but honestly, yeah, I want that to happen. I want him to get help, because he can't keep going around running amok like this. He really need that shit. So I, you know, all jokes aside, congratulations. I'm not even being funny. I'm so serious. I hope you continue it. I hope both of y'all continue it, because this is not it. Now, Mark says something. They're like talking over the final bonfire and her ultimate decision to stay with him. And Mark basically says, like, I wanted to pull you over to the side and be like, baby, just say no and take him back off camera, which is what I said. And then later, I think Ashley said it in one of the podcasts. She was like, I wanted her to just at least say no on camera. But whatever. But she says, you know, she had her own process that she needed to go through, and that she had her own thoughts that she needed to get to the deep depths of. She knew, you know, he had whatever past of his. After the cameras are off, you know, they're still on the island for another 2-3 days, and it was just them on opposite sides of the beds trying to work through their relationship. You know, at the end of the day, people are going to choose to do whatever they want to do. They're going to have their process. They're going to, you know, make the decision they want to make. Fucking two bitches on national television is a bit extreme to me, but okay. I guess she was able to see that that was purely physical and compartmentalized trauma or whatever, which sure. But they decided that they wanted to work it out in therapy and see if they could make it work. And they couldn't. Because April 7th, Shante would announce that they had broken up. So that would be like 2-ish weeks after this was posted. All I can say is good for you, BB. Sure, we would have wanted her to do an epic, like, fuck you, I'm not taking you back on the final bonfire, but she reached her end the way she needed to. And, you know, it is what it is. I hope both of them continue to process with a therapist, process the relationship, the end of the relationship, the show, the entire experience of the show, process all of that on their own, which is completely understandable. One of the things that is brought up in their part in particular on this podcast is how many people basically bashed Shante, which I found gross and icky. If a nigga gonna cheat on you on national TV with two bitches and then say you ain't gonna do nothing about it, that sound like something fucked up was going on the entire time. Why is she getting heat? He the one cheated. I was frustrated. I was like, come on, baby, no. But at the end of the day, he the one being terrible. Misogyny is a motherfucker. ain't it? Yeah, I'm happy that they're no longer together because I feel like they have a lot of shit to work on. I think more than either of them are fully aware of or need to admit, they have a lot of trauma related to a lot of things, probably religion, his whole like abandonment issues and being abused and all that shit. And I have a lot of empathy for both of them, and I hope that they continue to work on themselves. But this will always be a scar on your reputation. You will be known as the couple, one of the couples that had a threesome on Temptation Island, and you took them back, which is why I said the least you could do is take them back off camera. But alas, you know, again, she had her process, so it is what it is. There are some other things going on, but I think I'm going to keep this video relatively short because, again, I'm bleeding and depressed. And I think keeping it to the main cast, because I do know that the tempters and the temptresses have made opinions about things. When we were talking about the ex-wife that Tyler had, she mentioned briefly that Kay was getting a lot of hate for being an OnlyFans model, which is fucked up. And I don't think it's really right to shame the tempters or temptresses for being alluring and tempting. That's literally what they're there for. But it does seem like the temptresses in particular get a lot of heat for being like man stealers. And I'm thinking like probably Natalie would have gotten the most of it because Grant is so important. But yeah, that's what the show is. That's what the show is. That's what they're there for. Yeah, so that feels weird to me to get mad at particularly the women for doing the job they were asked to come do. So that's the update. Quick, simple, to the point. If you have any other updates that maybe I had missed, feel free to put those down in the comment section. If there's any more tea that I've missed, feel free to put those down in the comment section. Feel free to follow me on my social media, Instagram and Bluesky, both of which are KennieJD. I recently got a new PC. My boyfriend and our friend built me a PC. And I was like, maybe I should start to stream, like actually stream. I've had a Twitch for a very long time, but I don't use it regularly. It's very sporadically. I'm still deciding if I want to make it like a public Twitch or whatever. But now that I have a PC, I'm like, ooh, Sims. Ooh, Baldur's Gate 3 on PC. But I want to have mods on there so I can have some big old juicy melons and a fat ass. That's all for today, folks, and I'll see you guys next time.